Last night, the Republican whip, assistant leader, made a statement that's somewhat disturbing, and that's an understatement. He said that the president's nominee to our nation's highest court will look like a piñata. It's hard to comprehend. For those of you who have not been involved in a piñata, you have a big animal they've created with paper, thick paper, and they have usually children, but not always. They're blindfolded, spin them around, they have a big stick in their hands, and they swing at this piñata. Because once the person breaks through that, a lot of candy and stuff falls out of it. But the point is, the piñata takes a tremendous beating. Now, it is hard to understand how they think this is a good position for them to be in. They don't even know who it is, whether it's a man or a woman. They know nothing about this person, but they're going to make this person a piñata. I don't know why they're taking such pleasure in swinging wildly, not at a piñata, but at the Constitution. I can't imagine that he is being taken seriously with this reckless, outrageous rhetoric. But that's what the Republican Party is today, isn't it? The rhetoric that has been orchestrated by Donald Trump. They've been reduced to acting like big tough guys, threatening to destroy the reputation of the Supreme Court, and of course in the process, a nominee they don't know, and doing irreparable damage to our country for long periods of time in the future. This is really beneath the dignity. It should be beneath the dignity of a United States Senator and the Senate generally. I would hope they would just simply do their jobs. That's all we're asking. Senator Durbin?
Somebody liked what you said, Harry.
Hello.
It's your publisher. It's your publisher.
So what rings next?
They're listening.
They're listening.
What was it?
Welcome to the press conference. Oh, it's Senator Cornyn's number. No, it isn't. As Leader Reid mentioned yesterday, my Republican counterpart, Senator Cornyn of Texas, the Republican whip, warned any potential nominee to the Supreme Court that they should consider what's going to happen if they're chosen. Quote, "I think they will bear some resemblance to a piñata." Senator Reid has described what we already know. A piñata gets beaten up unmercifully until it falls apart. That's the warning being given by the majority party in the Senate to the president and the nominee if they follow their constitutional responsibility. Article 2, Section 2 is not a suggestion. It is a statement of direction and responsibility for the president and for the Senate. The president shall nominate a nominee to fill a vacancy on the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Senate shall advise and consent to that nominee. Shall. That's the operative verb in that sentence. Well, to give a nominee fair warning that if they are bold enough or foolish enough to allow their name to be submitted to the Senate for the Supreme Court, that they're in for a beating politically, is beneath the dignity of the United States Senate. The Republicans in the Senate ought to think twice about what they are establishing as the standard of conduct in the United States Senate of America. They should think twice about what they are doing to this institution, which throughout history has risen to the occasion to tell presidents and to tell the public that we have constitutional responsibilities. It was Franklin Roosevelt, fresh off a victory, who wanted to fill this Supreme Court and came to a Democratic Senate and said, help me stop these Supreme Court justices from their terrible decisions on the New Deal. And it was a Democratic Congress, fresh after FDR's victory, who turned him down and said no. I might also add, it isn't the nominee who's going to take a beating. It's the United States Constitution that's taking a beating. What these Republicans are doing is out of sync with the Constitution and with the American people. The American people, by a margin of almost 2 out of 3, and some polls even more, are saying to the Republicans, do your job. You've been elected to uphold and defend this Constitution. To treat it with such triviality and with such ignorance is inconsistent with this great institution. There's a price to be paid for this.
Senator Schumer.
By the way, the phone number was an 862 number. It's one of my hometown papers. The New York Times has 862, so come
I
get
used
your
to
phone.
work for the New York Times.
Yeah. Okay. The rhetoric that we have seen from Republican senators and their right-wing backers preemptively threatening the President's Supreme Court nominee is just a disgrace. But these comments are not just a disgrace and beneath the dignity of the Senate. They're also a sign of weakness. Republicans know that their blind obstruction and outright refusal to do their job is a political disaster. All they have to do is read the polls. Recent CNN poll, well over 60%, large majority of independents think the Republicans should have hearings. All Republicans have to do is peruse their home state newspapers. Democrats, independents, Republicans, and editorial boards across the country have hammered Republicans in their local newspapers. The Sioux City Journal headline reads, "Group in Sioux City pushes Grassley to act on Supreme Court vacancy." The Louisville Courier-Journal, Kentucky NAACP slams Mitch McConnell. Kansas City Star, Supreme Court vacancy poses problems for Roy Blunt. Well, the list goes on and on and on. If Republicans were confident that their argument was about letting the American people decide and didn't have to do anything to do with the merits of the nominee, they wouldn't be preemptively threatening that person in the press or gearing up to spend millions of dollars to attack the nominee's character. This hyper-partisan, preemptive overreaction shows that Republicans know they're on the ropes. Republicans know that they have staked out an untenable position. Mere hours after Justice Scalia's passing, Senate Republicans put themselves in a straitjacket that they're now desperate to wriggle out of. Republicans know they have a job to do and that the American people want Republican senators to do that job. It's time for the Republicans to drop the extreme rhetoric, abandon the blind obstruction, and do your job.
Senator Murray.
Well, people across the country are making their voices heard loud and clear. They want Senate Republicans to stop playing politics, stop disregarding their constitutional responsibilities, and stop worrying about what the Tea Party will think and do their job. This is truly a new low for Senate Republicans. Before the President even nominated someone, they came right out and said they would refuse to sit down and meet with him or her. Republican leaders have dictated that the Judiciary Committee chairman isn't even allowed to hold hearings. And just yesterday, as you heard, one Republican leader said that anyone thinking about accepting a nomination should watch out, since Republicans are going to treat them like, quote, a piñata. I would say that sounds a whole lot like a threat that Donald Trump would make, except I don't think he speaks Spanish. So, to be clear, Republicans won't even meet with the nominee or hold hearings, but they are getting ready to smear one and drag him or her through the mud. That's shameful, and I truly hope they change course. The President is going to nominate someone, and then Republican leaders need to work with us and do their job.
Questions? Yes. Been reluctant to do what? I'm sorry. I have no idea. I have no idea what they're doing. It's a circus, and I'm not part of that circus.
I mean, there is some discussion about Republicans coalescing around Ted Cruz. I mean, Senator Thune just said that he believes that a President Ted Cruz would change. He would understand that the presidency is different than being a senator. How do you?
That's a strong argument.
How would you consider? What do you think working with the President Ted Cruz would be like? Exactly. Could you work with this president?
You know, I think it's a little difficult to comprehend what's taken place already, the Republican primary, and I'm certainly not going to contemplate how it's going to wind up. It's going to be a nasty affair.
Senator Reid, on your side, Hillary Clinton could have a good night tonight and start to amass many more delegates than Bernie Sanders. But Bernie Sanders wants to stay in the race, potentially to the convention. In your view, is that okay? Do you have any concerns about a long race?
Bernie's done okay on his own. I don't think he needs my advice.
But are you concerned that this could hurt Hillary by having a long race?
We've had a very civil Democratic primary. All the debates are substantive. There's very, very limited animosity once in a while, but it's a rarity. Whereas every word out of the Republicans' mouth in their debates is not good. So I'm satisfied with how the primary is moving along. I have great respect and regard for Hillary and for Bernie.
Senator, appropriations. Earlier, Senator McConnell said that he's prepared to move forward now with appropriations at the levels that were set last year. What do you like to see happen next? Where do we go from here?
The four of us sent a letter to Senator McConnell. It was delivered Monday, and I was very, very happy with his response. He said he agreed with the letter. So there's no reason we can't go ahead and do our appropriation bills, just like we talked about. We should make sure that we have, and he said just a few minutes ago, he wants a top line. That's what we want. We made that agreement last year. We want to make sure that we have, if there's any changes, that we have equal spending with defense and middle class, and we don't have any crazy riders that try to derail things.
Senator Reid, may I follow up on the rider question?
Where you been lately?
I was with Donald Trump in Alabama last week.
Oh, sorry.
Senator, on the rider question, how do you think that this process can actually work without getting shut down the moment that you see something on abortion or you see something on campaign finance?
There's not a single person who said we're going to shut down the process because there's something they've talked about doing or maybe even do. We handled it well last year. We'll do it the same way this year.
Leader Reid, you all met with Patty Judge during your weekly lunch. Can you tell us what you guys talked about, and are you willing to invite other Democratic Senate hopefuls?
Well, she did a good job at our caucus. She said a number of things I'm very impressed with. But the thing she said that was really, I thought, very, very powerful is that she's one judge that Senator Grassley can't ignore. Okay? Thanks.